All right, story number 6. You thought it might not have happened today at 7:30, but it's happening. Okay, so I'm a country girl. Like I said, the closest town, my hometown, Marshallville, Ohio, had 800 people back then. But we lived north of town on Route 94, so a state road, not a highway, but pretty busy road. But we were out in the country. Let's just call it a half an acre that my parents had when we were little. Later, they bought another half acre, so it was just about an acre later. But anyway, so our house was surrounded by farm fields. We had one neighbor lady right next door, and that was Katie, and she knitted us hats. And then across the road was the farmer house and the barn and everything for the farmer who owned the land all around us. So we had 2 neighbor kids over there, and again, a brother and a sister. I only have one brother, so it was the 2 of us and the 2 of them. That was it. Everything else was farm fields. So when I was like a wee little one, okay, and it wasn't just because of the garden, but we were always outside. So today's story is not like one big story, but it's about how I love being outside, And so this is why, because I spent my whole childhood, we were outside. I remember my dad shooting for groundhogs or whatever way back in the field from our property. I remember him hitting golf balls. I remember him mowing. I'll get to that in a minute. And when we were at our grandparents, my cousins, we were always outside playing kickball and, wiffle ball and all this stuff. So we were always outside. Now, my brother and I, when we were wee little, we did not have a sandbox. We had a dirt pile. So, yes, it's funny because I sit here and I think, wow, man, I must have been this tomboy, but I don't feel like I was a tomboy, but I must have been. All my cousins on one side were boys. On the other side, I only had one girl cousin. Everybody else was boys. So for years of my childhood, it was all boys, except for the neighbor across the street. So anyway, that dirt pile though was awesome. It grew and grew and grew. And we had my brother had all the Tonka toys, and we would make little paths and villages and stuff with his Matchbox cars. It was awesome. It was back in the 70s. We would go out in the morning, come in to eat, go to the bathroom. We were outside all day. We'd have campfires at night. We'd play tag at night. We'd play fort and all that kind of stuff. We also were camping. And my grandparents, Otto and Ethel, my mom's mom and dad, had a little camper at the Mohican River, south of Worcester, Ohio. And we would go camping all summer. My mom was a teacher, so we were able to get down there a lot. And, you're outside. And I have camping stories, but that'll be for another day. But back to, just being at my parents' house growing up out in the country. My dad had this mower. It was a red snapper. And I love the smell of fresh cut grass. Ugh. And he had a red snapper riding mower, and he had a green Lawn Boy push mower. And I couldn't wait to get big enough so that I could mow the yard and be on those machines. I know this is not very girly, but it would get me away from cleaning the house every Saturday with my mom and weeding the garden. So anyway, I wasn't stupid, right? Anyway, then came weed whackers, and he had a weed whacker, and I wanted to do the weed whacking so bad. And I couldn't wait to do that because that was just awesome. Anyway, he would cut wood because we had a wood burning furnace, and I was a little bit afraid of a chainsaw, but I think I've only done that once in my life. Anyway, so I just remember my dad being on the mower all the time because we had a lot of land to mow. And we were in the garden and stuff like that. So, with the kids across the street, Brian and Jennifer, I sit here sometimes and I think that street was pretty busy. and we went back and forth all day long, even into the evening. And my mom, the rule was you always had to stop and look both ways twice and all that. But I think, wow, my heart would have been in my mouth every single time if I would have been my mom. So I can't imagine, making sure that we made it across the street safe and made it back safe. But anyway, so in the winter, the neighbor kids, we would sled on every little hill. Our neighbor lady, Katie, was a widow, so she didn't mind. We were always up at her house on her property. She had a little bit more woods and a little hill. So anyway, we'd play outside in the snow all day long. And in the summertime, we would play fort and tag, and we were outside all the time. And then in the fall, we had all these big maple trees, and we would rake the leaves into paths to play tag. And so, it took a lot of energy to do that, but we did sleep good, I would say. So let's go back to camping for a quick minute. So Otto and Ethel, my grandparents, had this little camper, and just some of the quick stories there. So there was Mr. and Mrs. Teal, and Mrs. Teal was this petite little thing that I remember, and very feminine, and it's like, I can't imagine she would have been a camping type. But anyway, then you had Mr. Cleary and Mrs. Cleary. Jean actually is still alive in her 90s, I think, but Mr. Cleary would always say, "Has anyone here seen Kelly?" So, because I was like the only girl, right? So he, I just remember that one time I was with my cousins. We were up at, getting 5-cent lollipops or something, and we were riding our bicycles down back to the camper, and this German Shepherd dog was coming after us, and we're going down the hill, and we go from the cement onto the gravel, and my two boy cousins, went ahead, and my bike wiggled in the gravel and I fell. The dog didn't get me or anything, but, I was like terrified. I didn't want to go do anything after that on the bike. But we would watch people canoeing. We'd have campfires. There were a group of 4 people, 4 campers, and all their friends and family would be there. But, I don't remember people drinking. It was good old family fun. I remember one time we were all it was rainy, and we were all in my grandparents' little camper, and there was the whole camper went like this, and we're like, who's out there? Who's out there? Because they didn't knock on the door. Well, here it was an earthquake. So anyhow, just things like that you remember. Awesome memories. So also being outside, I must have been 7th or 8th grade. I finally got a basketball hoop, and they put it, we had a, not a, what do you call it? Split level house. So the bottom part of the double level was the garage. And so, the basketball hoop went between the 2-bedroom windows there. And, I practiced basketball all the time once that went up. And, when you were in the house, like my poor family being in the house, or my mom and dad, because I think my brother was out most of the time with me. But, to them, every time that ball hit, it was like, the house was falling down. So anyway, outside a lot with that. And from there, then, you get into high school and you're playing sports and things like that. And, I have always loved being outside, and now I live in Florida and I can enjoy the outdoors almost every day. So that's how I came to love the outdoors. And I'm really not a tomboy, I don't think. Okay. Anyway, until tomorrow.